Today we're going to go through some additional examples about how to write a function rule from a graph, a story problem, or a table. The first one is talking about writing a function rule from a graph. So the first thing it says is use the graph to the left to find the slope and complete the equation for the line. So looking for the slope, this y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, that is just another way to write change in y's over change in x's. To find slope from a graph, you need to pick 2 points on the graph that fall directly between the crosshairs. It doesn't matter which two as long as they fall directly between those tick marks. Then you start at one of the points. It also does not matter which point you start at as long as you rise out of bed before you go for a run. So I'm going to start at this point down here. I need to rise up 3 digits, so that's a positive 3 change. Then I need to run to the right, so that's a positive 3 in my run. So my rise over run for my slope would be a positive 3 over 3. I then look to see if I have any common factors. 3 is a common factor, so I can divide both the numerator and denominator by 3 to get 1 over 1. This is the slope portion of my equation. So in this equation, y equals mx plus b, the slope is the m value, so I'm plugging in 1. Then I need to find the y-intercept. The y-intercept is the point where it crosses the y-axis, so that's right here. That is crossing the y-axis at a negative 1. So that's my b value. So I have negative 1 here at the end. I can then simplify this equation down here a little further because 1 times x would just be x. So I have y equals x. And plus a negative 1 is the same thing as subtracting 1. So your equation of your line would be y equals x minus 1. Next, taking a story problem and writing a function rule for it. It says Mrs. Savin receives a weekly base salary of $500. This means she's getting this just once. So in our equation of y equals mx plus b, our starting point, something that's happening once, is the b value. So we have plus 500 here at the end. The y, the equal sign, and the x, remember, are never going to change. Then we look for something that's happening over and over again. It says plus she receives a commission of $1,200 on each car that she sells. So that means for every car she sells, she gets an additional $1,200. So this is my rate of change. This is something that's happening over and over again. It states then at the end that she has a weekly pay P and of cars she sells C. So that just is telling us what variables to use in this function. So we have her pay is equal to 1,200 times C, the number of cars she sells, plus 500. Then it asks, what is the initial value? Your initial value is your starting point. She starts out at $500. Her rate of change is that $1,200 for each car she sells. Writing an equation of a line from a graph. First we look for the y-intercept. The y-intercept is the point where it crosses the y-axis, which is right down here. That is halfway between 0 and 500. Halfway between 0 and 500 is 250, so I have plus 250 in my b value. Then I need to find the rise over run for the slope. They give us another point right here, so we're going to find the rise over run in that point there along with this one down here. So we need to figure out how much we need to rise. Well, I'm going from 250 down here to 1,062.5. So in your calculator, you would be doing 1,062.5 minus 250 to find that change in your y's, to find your rise. So pulling up on your calculator, this would be a change of 812.5. That is your rise. That is how much you're changing in your y's. Then to find our run, we need to find, well, how much do I need to run across to get to this point? It's telling me my x value is 13. I'm going from 0 in my x's to 13 in my x's, so I have a change of 13, and it's to the right, so that is positive as well. Then you're typing this in your calculator to get a decimal answer for your slope. So your slope, then after dividing this out, because remember fraction bar means divided by, is 62.5. So the equation of our line is y equals 62.5x plus 250. The next answer, here we have crossing the y-axis at this point here. This point is halfway between 80 and 100, so that would be at 90. So that is our b value, our y-intercept. We're crossing the y-axis at a positive 90. Then we need to find our rise over our run. Our slope, use the other point that they give you. Our rise, I'm going to need to go down, so this is going to be a negative rise. And I'm going from 90 to a y value of 82.5. So you need to do 90 minus 82.5. Punch it in your calculator. 90 minus 82.5 will give us an answer of 7.5. And that's a negative change because you're rising down. Then we need to calculate our run, so we need to go to the right. We're going to the right from 0 in our x's to 6 in our x's, and we're going to the right, so that's a positive change. Same thing here. We need to divide these out to get a decimal answer for our slope. After doing negative 7.5 divided by 6, that gives us an answer of 1.25. So your slope there is a negative slope, because you have a negative 7 divided by a positive 6. So y equals negative 1.25x plus 90. The last few problems were some review problems. Solving equations. We have x's on both sides of the equation, so we need to move them to the same side before we can get x by itself. I always suggest moving your x's to a side that will keep them positive. So in this number 17, we're going to subtract 2x from both sides, because remember, what I do to one side, I must do to the other. These are going to cancel out. On the left, we'll be left with 5 equals 4x plus 33. Now we can work to get x by itself. 4 and x are best friends, so wait to break them up to the end. So we're going to subtract 33 from both sides. Then doing 5 minus 33, we'll get a negative 28 equal to 4x. Our last step then is to get rid of the 4 by doing opposite operations and dividing both sides by 4. Then we look for common factors. Keep your answer as an improper fraction. So 28 divided by 4 comes out to exactly negative 7, so x equals negative 7. Number 18, I would suggest moving your y's to the left side by subtracting 6y from both sides. They will cancel out on the right. We'll be left with 3y plus 17 equals 29. Our next step is to subtract 17 from both sides, which will leave us with 3y equal to 12. Then divide both sides by 3 to get y equal to 4. Number 19. Start by subtracting 7z from both sides. Then you're left with 10z minus 9 is equal to negative 59. Add 9 to both sides. You're left with 10z is equal to negative 50. And our last step is to divide both sides by 10 to get z equal to negative 5. And lastly, number 20, add 14a to both sides. That leaves us with 16a plus 11 is equal to 59. We're then going to subtract 11 from both sides to have 16a equal to 48. Our last step then will be to divide both sides by 16, and that will come out to exactly 3.